for America. And the result is the anger that people now feel. And I want to be fair, the anger is not just against Democrats and Barack Obama, it's against Republicans too. For Washington is truly out of touch. Never has it been more out of touch than it is right now. In 2009, seeing this happening, I was a private citizen. I decided to run for the U.S. Senate because the establishment in Washington, and I mean the entire leadership of the Republican Senate, wanted the governor of Florida. His name was Charlie Crist. Oh, you know, you've heard of him. Okay. Well, they wanted him to be the Republican nominee. And I met with the leadership. I said, I know him. He's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. I was right. You know that before that race was over, he had switched to independent. 2 years later, he became a Democrat. I think now he's a vegetarian. I mean, he keeps changing. Isn't it illegal to be a vegetarian in Iowa? I know, I just offended the vegetarians. I apologize to all 6 of you. Anyway. And I ran against him and we won. I was 40 points down in the polls. The only people that thought I could win all lived in my home. 4 of them were under the age of 10. And we won. And now when I decided to run for president, many of the same people came to me again and said, you can't run. I said, why? They said, you have to wait your turn. You have to wait in line. I said, I didn't know there was a line. But more importantly, this is not a time for waiting. This is not a time for patience. Because after 7 years of Barack Obama, if we get this election wrong, there may be no turning around. That's how important this election is. That's why I ask you to go out Monday night and caucus for me. Because if I'm our nominee, we will win. If I'm our nominee, I will defeat Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. You know who knows that as well? Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. That's why Hillary Clinton attacks me more than any other Republican. She doesn't want to run against me. I can't wait to run against her. I cannot wait. We will win, first because we will unite the conservative movement and the Republican Party. After we have this nomination process, which is unique to say the least. I mean, look, 1 out of 7 Republicans is running for president. That's a lot of people. But it will work its way out, and then we will come together. We have to be together. We cannot be divided. The left wants us to divide against each other. They love it when we fight with each other. They love it when we call each other names because they know that a house divided cannot stand. And they want us divided because they know if we're divided, they win. I will unite this party. I can unite this party faster and better than anyone running for president. And when I'm your nominee, I will do that. But we're not just going to unite the conservative movement. We are going to grow the conservative movement. We are going to take our message of limited government and free enterprise and a strong national defense to millions of Americans who haven't voted for a conservative in a quarter century. And I know that I can do this. I can go to the people that are living paycheck to paycheck because I've lived paycheck to paycheck. Because I grew up paycheck to paycheck. Because people whom I love that are in my family are living paycheck to paycheck right now. They're teachers and nurses and firefighters. They work hard and they live paycheck to paycheck. I know that I can reach young Americans struggling under thousands of dollars in student loans because I had a student loan. It's a big issue. It's a big issue. You notice none of the other Republican candidates talk about it. I do because just 3 years ago, I owed over $100,000 in student loans. Here's the thing about student loans. There's only 2 ways to get rid of a student loan. Pay it off or die. I paid it off because I wrote a book. It's called An American Son. Now available on paperback. Okay? And I say that because I don't want my kids to have a loan. So if you see the paperback, consider it. I know that I can talk to Americans that are raising children. Because my wife, Jeanette, and I are raising our 4 children, who, by the way, will be here tomorrow. I'll see them for the first time in 3 weeks. I'm excited about it. My 4 kids are saying, Dad, is it going to snow tomorrow in Iowa? Because they want it to snow. I said, kids, listen to me. Iowa does not want snow. I am against snow. I didn't tell them about Tuesday. It's coming. I can speak to people raising children because Jeanette and I are raising 4 children in the 21st century, and here's what I know. It is harder than ever to raise our children with the values we teach in our church and the values we teach in our home instead of the values they keep trying to ram down our throats in the popular culture. We will grow the conservative movement because we will take our message to people that have not voted for us in a long time, and they will see that we do care about people that are struggling. We care so much that we are for the only things that can turn their life around, and that is to embrace the principles that made America so special. But being the nominee is not enough, and winning is not enough. We have to turn America around. This is not just about turning around the Republican Party and beating Hillary Clinton by itself. It's also about turning America around. And you deserve, when people come here to run for president, you deserve to know what they're going to do. Anger is not a plan. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to be angry. But anger is not a plan. You have to know how we're going to fix it. And I want to describe to you tonight just a few of the things we're going to do when you elect me president of the United States. First, I'm going to take the oath of office, which means I'm going to place my left hand on the Bible and my right hand in the air. And before the eyes of this nation and under the eyes of God, I will swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. And unlike Barack Obama, I will actually mean it. What it means is I will defend the Second Amendment because you have a God-given constitutional right to defend your family from criminals and from terrorists. We will defend religious liberties, not because we seek to impose our views on anyone, but because you have a right to live out the teachings of your faith in every aspect of your life. And by the way, let me say, I've been asked this a few times on the campaign trail by a few people. Some of them are respectful. Some of them think they're being cute. Oh, well, are you going to run for you want to be a pastor? You want to be, you're going to force us to view things? No, I can't force you to believe what I believe. No one can force you. I'm a Christian. Christianity cannot be forced on anyone. Christianity is the free gift of salvation that you have to accept. Here's what I know. You better hope that my faith influences me. Because I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ taught us that in order to follow him, we have to care and love one another. That we have to care for the less fortunate. Those who are facing difficult times. We have a moral obligation. That's why America is the most charitable nation on earth. Do you think Americans donate more money to charity than governments do because of the tax break? Do you think Americans volunteer hours and hours at charities and in their churches and communities for nothing? We do it because our Judeo-Christian values in both Judaism and in Christianity have shaped this nation. It is why we are the most compassionate people on earth. And you better hope we have a president that's influenced by values like that. When I'm president, we will. So after I take the oath of office, I'm going straight to the Oval Office. And when I walk into the Oval Office, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to immediately repeal every single one of Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. So the first thing is I'm going to rename the EPA. It's going to be called the Employment Prevention Agency. And then we're going to repeal every single one of these EPA crazy rules that are hurting farmers and manufacturers and business in America. This Obama policy of taking federal taxpayer money and using it to pay for abortions overseas, it ends on my first day in office. I'm not thirsty, my throat hurts. But I'm going to keep going. On my first day in office, this ridiculous and dangerous deal with Iran, it will be canceled. My first day in the Oval Office. We are going to restore our economy. People say the economy. You know why the unemployment rate keeps dropping? Because people are dropping out of the labor force. They're giving up. The jobs that are being created don't pay enough anymore. That's why you have millions of people with college degrees living paycheck to paycheck. You know why that's happening? Because this government, under this president, has put in place policies that don't allow us to compete with the world. There is no nation on earth that can compete with us. We are the most innovative people in the world. We are the most productive workers on the planet. The thing standing in the way is our government policies. That's why we're going to fix our tax code. That's why we're going to roll back regulations. That's why we're going to save Social Security and Medicare and in the process bring our debt under control. That's why we're going to fully utilize all of our energy resources. And if we do that, there will not be an economy in the world that can stand up with America, and we will create the best paying jobs of the new economy right here in the United States. When I'm president, we're getting rid of Obamacare once and for all. We're going to replace it. We're going to replace it. I have a detailed plan to replace it. It's on my website. It takes a few minutes. It's too hot to go through it. I don't want to make you, but it's a good plan. It basically puts you in charge of your health care decisions. It allows us to find coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. It doesn't have all the complexity, the costs, and the job-killing aspects of Obamacare. Now, everybody running for president as a Republican is against Obamacare. I'm the only one running for president against Obamacare that's ever scored a victory against Obamacare. Because when they passed Obamacare, they put a bailout fund in Obamacare. They were going to use your taxpayer money to bail out private insurance companies. I got rid of that bailout fund. I led the effort to wipe it out. And now, now the experts, or the so-called experts that love Obamacare, oh, this is a terrible thing he's done. It's going to lead to the collapse of Obamacare. I hope so. But whether it does or it does not, when I am president of the United States, with a simple majority vote in the House and Senate, and with my signature, Obamacare is gone forever. I can tell you that, as many of you know, my parents aren't from the United States originally. My parents were immigrants. My grandparents were immigrants. My wife's parents were immigrants. I live in a community of immigrants. I grew up in a community of immigrants. I understand this issue deeply and personally. I know this. Today we live in a very different world. Our number one priority right now must be to keep ISIS out of the United States. And so it's not about a religious test. It's not about discriminating. It's not about being mean-spirited. It's about this. When I'm president, if we don't know who you are and we don't know why you're trying to come here, you are not getting into the United States of America. As the son and grandson of immigrants, of a family that's benefited from the generosity of America, I know that enforcing our immigration laws and protecting our borders is not anti-immigrant. I'm so tired of being told that. Enforcing our immigration laws is not anti-immigrant. It is what sovereign nations do, and we will. When I'm president, instead of hiring 20,000 new IRS agents, we're going to hire 20,000 new border agents. We are going to finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls that the experts tell us we need. We're going to have a mandatory E-Verify system to prevent people that are here illegally from being hired. We're going to have an entry-exit tracking system because 40% of the people in this country illegally entered legally and overstayed their visas. And until all of that happens and all of that is in place and all of that is working and illegal immigration is proven to be under control, until that happens, nothing else will happen. And then when I'm president, there will be no amnesty. There will be no amnesty. Illegal immigrants that are dangerous criminals will be immediately deported. And sanctuary cities that flaunt our laws and welcome criminals into their midst, they will lose all of their federal funding when I am president. The most important job I have as president will be commander-in-chief. It's the reason why we have a federal government. don't have a federal government to run our schools. We don't need a Department of Education. And we don't need to be forcing Common Core on our schools, on our parents, on our principals. But we have to defend our country. Being commander-in-chief is the most important job I will have. It is the most important job any president will have. And this president is a terrible commander-in-chief. Because he's gutting the military. The world is more dangerous than it was 7 years ago. North Korea is governed by a lunatic. And I mean that in the most respectful way. The guy's crazy, but he has nuclear weapons. The Chinese government, not the Chinese people, the Chinese government hacks into our computers. They're expanding their military. They steal secrets from our inventors, products from American companies. They're taking over the South China Sea. Vladimir Putin is poisoning people, taking over sowing instability in the Middle East, sowing instability in Europe. Iran is about to get $100 billion of sanctions relief because of Barack Obama. I know that's what I said. That's what I said. And what are they going to use this money for? Well, let me tell you what they're not going to use it for. They're not going to use it to build hospitals, roads, bridges, anything like that. They're going to use it to build up their own military. They're going to use it to sponsor terrorism. And eventually they're going to use it to buy or build a nuclear weapon of their own. And then on top of all of that, you have the best funded and most organized and sophisticated radical jihadist movement in history, ISIS. And it boiled my blood to hear the president at the State of the Union say, they're not a threat, they're just a bunch of guys on the back of pickup trucks. No, they're not. They're not. ISIS is the group that now is found in over a dozen countries with affiliates. They're in Indonesia. They're showing up in the Philippines. You saw what they did in Paris, what they did in San Bernardino. You know what ISIS is? It's the group that burns people alive in cages. ISIS is the group that takes little girls as young as 10, 11 years of age and auctions them off as brides to their despicable fighters. That's who ISIS is. ISIS is an apocalyptic group. You know what they believe? This is what they believe. They believe that there's going to be a final showdown in a city named Dubuque. I have to be careful how I pronounce that, because one time it sounded like Dubuque and people freaked out. And I said, no, not Dubuque. Dubuque. D-A-B-I-Q. It's a true city in northern Syria. And ISIS believes that that's going to be the city where Armageddon is going to happen, where they are going to confront the armies from the west and they're going to defeat us. And then the Mahdi, which is their messianic figure, the 12th Imam, is going to come back and govern the earth. And every one of us is either going to be a radical Sunni like they are, or we're going to die. That's what they believe. I'm not telling you that's what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. But that's what they believe. And why is it important to understand that? Because groups that believe that don't just decide, you know what, we're going to quit jihadism and we're going to become stockbrokers. These people have to be defeated. Either they win or we win. Well, how are we going to defeat them with what's happening to our military now? Here's where our military is now under Barack Obama. We will soon have the smallest army since the end of World War II. We will soon have the smallest Navy in 100 years. And we will soon have the smallest Air Force and the oldest airplanes we have had in the history of the United States. That's what Barack Obama is doing to our military. Quite frankly, I cannot believe, I find it unacceptable that anyone would run for president in the party of Reagan and brag about voting for a budget that brags about cutting our defense spending. And so I want to be abundantly clear, in case anyone here believes that that's the right approach. I don't think you do. But I want to be clear with you. When I am president, we're not cutting the military. When I am president, we are going to rebuild the U.S. military because the world is a safer and better place. We're going to rebuild the U.S. military. You know why? Because weakness is an enemy of peace. Weakness invites aggression. And we're going to rebuild the military because it is not fair to our men and women in uniform to send them out there to do dangerous things without the right equipment, without the right training, and without the right support. They deserve better, and when I'm president, they will have better than the commander-in-chief they have now. And when I'm president, you will hear me say something this president refuses to say. War on terror. War on terror. War on terror. I'm going to say it all the time. He doesn't even want to say it once. We are going to have a real war on terror. And here's what it's going to look like. The best intelligence agencies in the world are going to tell us where the terrorists are. The most powerful military in the world is going to destroy them. And if we capture any of these ISIS killers alive, they're not getting a lawyer. They're not going to have the right to remain silent. They are going to Guantanamo. And in Guantanamo, we are going to find out everything they know. We are going to prevent them from attacking this country, and we are going to take these enemy combatants off the battlefield, one way or another. By the way, we're also going to take care of our veterans. What's happening with our veterans now is immoral. It is always appropriate to stop and thank our veterans. If you're a veteran, or you're the relative, or the family member, or a loved one of yours is serving in uniform or has in the past, we want to thank you for your service to our country. And by the way, the war on terror also involves now firefighters and police officers. Because when they attacked in San Bernardino, it was firefighters and police officers that responded. One of the most stark images. You may have seen this video of a police officer telling the people, follow me. They'll have to shoot me before they shoot any of you. I am so sick and tired of all these stories out there about how bad police officers are the thin blue line that stands between us and danger. We thank you for what you do for our country and our... By the way, many of our police officers and firefighters are also veterans. So we thank you twice. And our gratitude won't just be in word, it'll be in action. When I'm president, all these people at the VA that are not doing a good job, there are people at the VA that do a good job, and we thank them. And there are people that are not doing a good job. When I'm president, those people will be fired. They will be fired. The chances of getting fired at the VA for not doing a good job, well, you're likelier to win Powerball. Let me put it to you that way. Although if you win Powerball, you'll probably quit your job at the VA, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, my point is, people are going to be held accountable, and here's what else is going to happen. When I'm president, the veterans that are here today, your VA benefits are going to belong to you, and you will be able to take those benefits to any hospital or any doctor that you want to go to. There are a lot of topics to cover. I am very proud that our campaign has put out specific ideas on all these issues, not because I want to bore anyone, but because you deserve to know. I'm asking you to make me the President of the United States. I'm asking you to entrust me with the highest office in the most important land on the planet. You deserve to know exactly what we are going to do, what our ideas are. And that's why I've taken this so seriously. I want you to know what my policies are. I want you to go on my website and learn, because we have specific ideas about all kinds of things, including the things I didn't discuss here now. But in the end, I want to go back to how I started. Because in less than 48 hours, you, the people of Iowa, will be the first Americans that answer the question of what comes next for America after 7 years of Barack Obama. I would say that all elections are important. This one is unique. Not every election is a turning point in American history. History will write that 2016 was a turning point in the history of this great land. And there are only two possible outcomes. It will write that this was the year when America re-embraced everything that made her great, and she became greater than she ever was. Or it will write that this is the year where we stayed on the course Barack Obama put us on, and our children became the first Americans to inherit a diminished country in our 200-some-odd years of history. This election's a referendum. What's on the ballot is not simply a choice between names or parties. What's at stake in this election is our identity as a nation and as a people. That's what's at stake. That's why we cannot lose this election. And that's why I'm asking you to caucus for me. Because I know I will beat the Democrats if I'm our nominee. If it's Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Usually that's a slur. He proudly embraces socialism. A few nights ago I said Bernie Sanders is a good candidate for president of Sweden. But I had some people from Sweden at my last couple of events, and I felt really bad. I really did. So I don't want to name any more countries. I started with Norway. I have people that work for me that are of Norwegian descent. They got angry. So I said, but here's what the guys from Sweden said to me last night. They said, why would you do that to our country? So the truth is, I don't wish Bernie Sanders on anyone. Right. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, first of all, Hillary Clinton is disqualified from being president at all. Here's why. There's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to give you one. Give me a moment, guys. I'm getting there. Number one, Hillary Clinton took the most sensitive information in the government. It's so sensitive they can't even release it in the emails. And she put them on her private email server. You know why? Because she thinks she's above the law. She thinks she's above the law. Nothing's going to happen. When I'm president, no one will be above the law. Not Hillary Clinton, not the people that have never been prosecuted for Fast and Furious. We don't even talk about that anymore. People died because of that. No one's been held accountable for that. It is not an exaggeration to say if Hillary Clinton wins this election, one of the first things she may have to do is pardon herself. Now that's unprecedented. But she's disqualified from being commander-in-chief too. Because Hillary Clinton lied about Benghazi. She lied. She knew that what happened in Benghazi was an orchestrated terrorist attack. She knew it. You know how we know she knew it? We got the emails. She was emailing people, and she was saying this was a terrorist attack. Remember the context of this, okay? September of 2012, Barack Obama was running for president. He was saying Al-Qaeda's on the run, bin Laden is dead, the war on terror, there is no war on terror. And so now you have a terrorist attack. They don't want to admit it, so she lied. But she didn't just lie to the American people. She lied to the families of those brave Americans who lost their lives in the service of our country. Lied to them more than twice. She lied to them. And here's my point. No one who lies to the families of people who have lost their lives in the service of our country, no one who does that can be commander-in-chief of the United States. So what does America look like if Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama, same thing, or if Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton wins? Here's what happens. Obamacare becomes permanent. All these unconstitutional executive orders become permanent. The cuts to our military, they continue. Our standing in the world continues to decline. Our relationship with Israel continues to erode. That's what happens. Everything that's gone wrong over the last 7 years gets worse. That's what happens if they win. The other night, you know what happens if they win? Barack Obama might be on the Supreme Court, according to Hillary Clinton. Can you imagine? This guy wakes up in the morning and said, how can I violate the Constitution today? And we're going to put him on the Supreme Court of the United States of America? She thinks it's a great idea. She thinks it's a great idea. I don't think he'll take it because it'll cut down on his golf game. But she, I like golf. I don't play it, but I like it. But my point is, this is what happens if we lose this election. We have to win. And that's why I'm asking you to caucus for me on Monday, because I will unite this party. I will unite this party. I will grow the conservative movement, and I will defeat them. And then we can turn this country around. And this issue is deeply personal to me. And that's how I want to really close tonight. I want to tell you why this matters so much to me personally. America is not just the country I was born in. America is literally the country that changed the history of my family. When my father was 4 days shy of his 9th birthday, his mother passes away. And he's a little boy living in Havana, Cuba, and he has to go work because they no longer could provide for the family. 9 years old, he had to go work. He had to leave school, and he had to go work. He never went back to school. He would have worked for the next 70 years of his life. In 1956, my parents arrived in the United States. They spoke very little English. The first words my father learned were, I'm looking for a job, because someone had spelled it out phonetically for him on a little piece of paper. They didn't know anyone except a few relatives. They had no money. They had no education, really. And this idea that coming to America, everything's great, it wasn't. They struggled. Those first few years here were very tough for them. They really struggled. They were discouraged. But they persevered. Let me tell you what their lives look like less than 10 years later. Less than 10 years after they came here with nothing, my father, a bartender, owned a home. He was a homeowner. Not a mansion, but a home in a safe and stable neighborhood. Over the next 3 decades, they would raise 4 children. Then they would retire with dignity and security. And the most important thing of all for my parents was they lived to see all 4 of their children better off than themselves. That was the purpose of their lives. When they were young, they had big dreams. Young people have big dreams. Their dreams became impossible. You know what their life became about? You know what their purpose of their life became? To make sure that what happened to them never happened to us. To make sure that all the chances they never had, we would. That was the purpose of their life, and they were able to achieve it here. And they would not have been able to achieve it anywhere else. If my parents had gone to any other country in the world, I don't know what I would be doing right now. But I know I would not be standing here running for the highest office in any land. Because this is a great country. It's the only place where even the son of a bartender and a maid can have the same dreams and the same future as the son of a president or the son of a millionaire. It makes us unique. It makes us special. And that was not an accident. You and I and each of us are the inheritors of the greatest nation on earth because of what the people before us did. For over 2 centuries, each generation of Americans faced great challenges. Americans have never had it easy. We have always faced great struggles. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, if they're still alive, ask them. And they will tell you that their generations faced great struggle too. And you know what they did? They confronted their problems. They didn't leave them for you. They confronted their challenges. They embraced their opportunities. And for over 2 centuries, ours is the story of a place where each generation has left the next better off. Because each generation was willing to do what needed to be done at that moment. Now the time has come for us to do our part. The moment has arrived for this generation to do its part. And I'm asking you to caucus for me on Monday because when I'm President of the United States, we will do our part. We will take the principles that made America great and we will apply them to the challenges of the 21st century. And when we do that, this nation has a chance to be greater than it's ever been. We will apply our principles to the challenges of this new era. And here's what history is going to say about us if we do what needs to be done. It will write that this generation of Americans lived in the early years of this new century in a troubling and uncertain time. But like all the generations that came before us, we too rose up to the challenge of the moment. We solved our problems. We confronted our challenges. And because we did what needed to be done, the American dream didn't just survive. It reached more people and changed more lives than ever before. Our children became the freest, the most prosperous Americans that ever lived. And the 21st century wasn't just as good as the 20th century, it was better. It was a new American century. This is the opportunity in this election. And I hope we embrace it. For we still have time to make this country greater than it's ever been. But we do not have forever. In just less than 48 hours, you will become, as I said, the first Americans who decide who our next president will be. And I'm asking you to caucus for me. Because I know that if I'm our nominee, not only will we win, but we have a chance to make things better. We have a chance to turn things around. And I can tell you 2 things about me when I become president. Number 1, I will never divide you against each other on purpose. I will never seek to win an election by pitting Americans against each other the way our current president has. At every opportunity, I will seek to unite us. That doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything. When there's a chance to work together, we will. But there are issues we're going to have to fight over, like Obamacare, and that's why we live in a republic, and that's why we have elections. But I will never seek to pit Americans against each other. If you were here tonight in the hopes of heckling me, protesting against me, I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut your taxes too. I want to be president of the United States of America because this country's been divided too deeply over the last 7 years. That ends if you elect me. And here's the other. I will always seek to make you proud. For the presidency is not just a political office. It is the head of state, the most prominent, well-known individual in this nation. It is a symbol in many ways, the presidency, not the person, but the presidency of this country. And in everything I will do, I will seek to make you proud. I will do it as a candidate, whether it's on a debate stage or up here speaking to you tonight or in the way I interact with people. I never want to do anything that makes you embarrassed having supported me. Doesn't mean you'll always agree with everything I stand for, but I will always seek to make you proud. And that does not extend to you alone. It extends to my children. Because being on the campaign trail has required me to be away from them. And we've done so with joy. Because in the end, I know that this election is as much about them as it is about me. I want them to be able to grow up in a country like the one I did, where parents can do for their children what my parents did for me and what your parents did for you. And when my kids are my age, when they're older and they look back at this time when I was away from home and they watch the videos, I want them to be proud of what I did, not embarrassed by it. I don't want this campaign to ever be like one of those old prom pictures where you look at and say, oh, I can't believe I used to look that way. Well, you have one of those prom pictures, somebody upstairs laughing. They're like nudging each other saying, I know, it's a prom picture. But I'm serious about that. I will seek to unite us as a people, even if we don't agree on everything. And I will always seek to make you proud. For this is truly the nation that changed not just my life and yours, but the world. And that's what our children deserve to inherit. And so I thank you for being here tonight. It's a Saturday night. There's a lot of things to do. I'm grateful that you came. I'm grateful for your patience. I'm grateful for your support. For those of you that are still making up your mind, I know you have a lot of people to pick from. But no one running for president is more passionate about the challenges before us than I am. And no one will work harder, and no one has a better chance of defeating the Democrats than I do. And so, as you leave here tonight, if you have not yet done so, I ask you to please sign up with our campaign. Sign up and volunteer if you've got like a spare hour or two. There's no football tomorrow. The Pro Bowl doesn't count. It's not a real game, okay? They don't play defense. Sign up and volunteer for our campaign. Sign up to commit to caucus. I need your support. Together we can truly make a difference. Sign up in caucus. We're not going to bombard you with, well, we are going to bombard you with emails, but only for like 2 days. Sunday and Monday. And then we're going to leave you alone until September. And then in September, after you have made me our nominee, we will be back in Iowa. We're going to win the general election here. We're going to defeat the Democrats, and we are going to turn America around. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.